Hi, everyone. I'm back with part two of Hate That Dog. If you remember when we left, I kind of left it a cliffhanger. Jack said, No, 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 I can't do it. You do it. Remember, he's talking to the teacher, and through the course of the year, he has discovered that he's actually a poet. He also loves the poetry of Walter Dean Myers, who is also an author of books. And I wonder if that's what he's talking about. But he says, No, 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 I can't do it. And that's where we left off. So let's pick up from there. And I can't wait to hear from you all today about what you thought about this novel in verse. So here we go. April 12th. I don't agree that Mr. Walter Dean Myers might like to hear from a boy who likes his poems. I think Mr. Walter Dean Myers would like to hear from a teacher who uses big words and knows how to spell and to type. April 17th. I guess he has to write to him anyway because it says, Dear Walter Dean Myers. So his teacher doesn't take no for an answer. She's encouraging Jack to write to him. Dear Mr. Walter Dean Myers, you probably don't want to hear from me because I'm only a boy and not a teacher, and I don't use big words, and you probably won't read this, or even if you do read it, you probably are way too busy to answer it, let alone do the thing I am going to ask you, and I want you to know that's okay. Because our teacher says writers are very, 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 very busy trying to write their words. And the phone is ringing, and the fax is going, and the bills need paying, and sometimes they get sick. I hope you are not sick, Mr. Walter Dean Myers. Or their family gets sick, or the electricity goes off, or the car needs fixing, or they have to go to the grocery store, or do the laundry, or clean up messes. I don't know how you find the time to write your words if you have to do all that stuff, or maybe you should get a helper. And maybe you should get a helper. Jack cracks me up. So, what I'm asking you is this. If you ever get time to leave your house, and if you ever feel like visiting a school where there might be some kids who like your poems, would you ever maybe think about maybe coming maybe to our school, which is a clean place with mostly nice people in it? And I think our teacher, Miss Stritchberry, would maybe even make brownies for you because she sometimes makes them for us. I hope I haven't too much stopped you from doing your writing of words and fixing your car and getting groceries and all that stuff just to read this letter, which probably has taken you maybe 15 minutes in that time. You could have maybe written a whole new poem, or at least the start of one, and I am so sorry for taking up your time. I understand if you can't come to our clean school and read some of our poems to us and let us see your face, which I bet is a friendly face. My name is Jack. By Mr. Walter Dean Myers. So, somewhere in that letter, I think I'm getting that he wants him to come to his school. And in a roundabout way, he asked Mr. Walter Dean Myers if he isn't too busy, if he would maybe come to their school. I think that's what I got out of that letter. April 20th, to the teacher. Did you mail it? Did he answer yes? April 24th. Months? It might take months for Mr. Walter Dean Myers to answer my letter. If he answers it, I didn't know until you explained that the letter has to go to Mr. Walter Dean Myers' publishing company, and then someone at the publisher company has to sort all the mail, not just my letter, but hundreds and hundreds of letters to hundreds of authors. All that big mess of mail piled up, and someone sorting all that mail. And then the letters for Mr. Walter Dean Myers to go to him, and maybe he's away, maybe he's on vacation, maybe he's sick, maybe he's hiding in a room writing poems, maybe he's babysitting his children or his grandchildren if he's married and stuff. Or maybe he has to go to the dentist or get that car fixed, or maybe someone died. I really, really, really hope someone did not die. So if you ask me, it could take him years to get around to answering that letter. So I guess we better just forget about it, not count on it, to get it out of our minds, do something else, forget it. Sounds to me like Jack doesn't want to get his hopes up about it, so he set himself up for disappointment. April 26th. Sometimes when you're trying not to think about something, it keeps popping back into your head. You can't help it. You think about it and think about it and think about it until your brain feels like a squash pea. May 2nd. Wow, it's already May, and that's when school usually gets out is May. Yes, you can type up the thing about trying not to think about something, but you'd better leave my name off it because it was just words coming out of my head and I wasn't paying too much attention to which words came out when. May 7th. Maybe you could show me how to use the computer and then I could type up my own words. May 8th. I didn't know about the spell checking thing inside the computer. It is like a miracle. Little brain in there, a little helper brain. But I am a slow typer person. Did you say there's a teaching typing thing in that computer too? Will it help me type better and faster? Tap, 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 tap. So my fingers can go as fast as my brain? Woo, Jack's getting awfully excited. I don't want us to get off track. It seems like he really wants to hear from Walter Dean Myers, but she's making him type up follow-up letters, maybe to remind him. I don't know, if you were him and you got that letter from Jack, would you respond? Would you want to come? Now, author visits actually usually cost a lot of money because we have author visits. We pay the author. If they live across country, we have to pay for them to fly here. We don't even know where he lives, if he lives anywhere near Jack. Okay, enough of me. May 14th, middle of May almost. And he wrote, I typed this up myself. My Sky. Remember, Sky is his dog, his yellow dog he adopted from the pound. So he's back to writing poems about Sky. My Sky. We were outside in the street, me and some other kids kicking the ball before dinner, and Sky was chasing with his feet going every which way and his tail wagging and his mouth slobbering, and he was all over the place, smiling and wagging and slobbering and making us laugh, and my dad came walking up the street. He was way down there near the end. I could see him after he got off the bus, and he was walking, and I saw him wave, and he called out, "Hey there, son." So I didn't see the car coming from the other way until someone else, one of the big kids, called out, "Car!" And I turned around and saw a blue car, splattered with mud, speeding down the road. And I saw Sky going after the ball, wagging his tail. And I called him, "Sky, Sky!" And he turned his head, but it was too late because the blue car, splattered with mud, hit Sky. Thud, 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 and kept on going in such a hurry, so fast, so many miles to go. It couldn't even stop, and Sky was just there in the road, lying on his side, with his legs bent funny and his side heaving, and he looked up at me, and I said, "Sky, Sky, Sky!" And then my dad was there, and he lifted Sky out of the road and laid him on the grass. And Sky closed his eyes, and he never opened them ever again. I was afraid something bad would happen to Sky. And I hate reading that. And I can't imagine what it would be like for Jack to write that poem and finally get it out. And remember when he wrote his earlier poems, we knew how important Sky was to him. And at first he didn't even want to write poems. If you remember that. And remember his first poem was out of blue sky. It all depends, a blue car. And the teacher said, "Why does it depend on the blue car?" And he wouldn't answer that. The blue car was important, wasn't it? Like that's what he thinks of maybe when he thinks of Sky. He thinks of the blue car. And couldn't that car have stopped to check on Sky? Oh my goodness, I hope that never happens to you, to your dog, or you've hit a dog. But if there's any way possible, and if you could stop and think about that, I think that's the right thing to do. At least find the owner. See if you can help. Okay. Getting back to our book, we're almost done. What a gut-wrenching poem. May 15th. I don't know, period. If you put it on the board and people read it, it might make them sad. May 17th. Okay, I guess I'll put my name on it. But I hope it doesn't make people feel too sad. And if it does, maybe you could think of something to cheer somebody up, like maybe with some of those brownies you make, the chocolate ones that are so good. May 21st. Wow, 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 wow. That was the best news ever. I can't believe it. Mr. Walter Dean Myers is really coming to our school. He was coming to our city anyway to see his old buddy. And he would be honored to visit our clean school and mostly nice kids who like his poems. We sure are lucky that his old buddy lives in our town. Wow! That is so awesome, by the way, that the author gets to come. Whoa, I think he's being really kind, personally. Oh my gosh. Whew. Wow. May 28th. The bulletin board looks like it's blooming words with everybody's poems up there on all those colored sheets of paper, yellow, blue, pink, red, green. And the bookcase looks like it's sprouting books, all of them by Mr. Walter Dean Myers, lined up looking back at us, waiting for Mr. Walter Dean Myers himself to come to our school, right into our classroom. Wow. May 29th. And I would think he'd be the boy of honor that got him there. Could you imagine the pride he must feel? May 29th. I can't wait. I can't sleep. Are you sure you hid my poem that was inspired by Mr. Walter Dean Myers? I don't want to do anything to upset him. He's afraid he's going to hurt his feelings or upset him about that one poem where he copied a line. June 1st. Mr. Walter Dean Myers Day. I never in my whole life ever heard anybody who could talk like that Mr. Walter Dean Myers, and look, it's like they declared it Mr. Walter Dean Myers Day. I think that's so awesome. All of my blood in my veins was bubbling and all the thoughts in my head were buzzing, and I wanted to keep Mr. Walter Dean Myers at our school forever. June 6th. So we don't even know how the day went. We have to figure it out from Jake's poetry, don't we? Dear Mr. Walter Dean Myers, thank you 100 million times for leaving your work and your family and your things people have to do to come and visit us in our school in our class. We hope you liked your visit. We think maybe you did because you were smiling all over the place. And when you read your poems, you had the best voice, low and deep and friendly and warm, like it was reaching out and wrapping us all up in a big squeeze. And when you laughed, you had the best laugh I've ever heard in my life, like it was coming from way down deep and bubbling up and rolling and tumbling out into the air. We hope we didn't ask you too many questions, but we thank you for answering every which one, and especially for saying that you would be flattered if someone used some of your words, and especially if they added a note that they were inspired by Mr. Walter Dean Myers. Oh, and that's his way, I think, of telling Jack how important Jack is to him, how touched he is by Jack loving his work and his poetry so much. At least that's what I think. And it was nice of you to read all our poems on the bulletin board, and I hope it didn't make you too sad when you read the one about my dog Sky getting smushed in the road. And I think you liked the brownies too, right? Thank you for coming to see us, Mr. Walter Dean Myers. Inside this envelope is a poem using some of your words. I wrote it. I was inspired by you, Mr. Walter Dean Myers. From your number one fan, Jack. And this is called Love That Dog, inspired by Walter Dean Myers. Love that dog like a bird loves to fly. I said I love that dog like a bird loves to fly. Love to call him in the morning, love to call him, hey there, Sky. That makes me cry. I'm glad that he's put enough time behind him that when he thinks of Sky, he remembers the happy and how much he loves him, rather than how Sky left the earth and left this world. I'm loving that. Some of the poems used by Miss Stretchberry. Well, that's the teacher. And there are a couple poems that I want to share before we finish out the day with Love That Dog. The Red Wheelbarrow. Remember that poem at the very beginning that was so short? So much depends upon the red wheelbarrow. Then it had 2 lines after that about the glaze on the wheelbarrow and the white chickens next to it. So this is the poem right here. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with sun water beside the white chickens. That's actually a famous poem. And that poet actually ended up making some money from that. That's a poem. It meant something to him. It meant something to a lot of people. Poems do not have to be long to be poems, do they? And here, if you ever check this book out, is Robert Frost's poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Remember, Jack talked about that. And how the poet had miles to go before he sleeps. So Jack thought, why don't you keep going? Got miles to go. And there's Tiger, Tiger Burning Bright, a poem by William Blake. We studied this short 4-line poem, a quatrain, sometimes called a stanza, since that's the whole stanza. Quatrain means 4 lines. Also, we studied that in high school. And Jack's studying that in elementary school. And there is a poem called Dog, and a poem called The Pasture by Robert Frost, and one called Street Music. Remember, Jack wrote about his street and the sounds and sights of his street. And remember, he talked about poems shaped like things. So there's the apple, shaped like the subject. And there is Love That Boy by Walter Dean Myers. Love that boy like a rabbit loves to run. I said, I love that boy like a rabbit loves to run. Love to call him in the morning, love to call him, hey there, son. And that's the first stanza. And remember, Jack had a tribute to them. I love how it all comes together. I think it ends happily despite the tragedy of the dog. I think that Jack's learning to move on and to find the peace and love and focus on the joy the dog brought. And I think that Jack is learning to have confidence in himself and his words and as a writer. And I love it that the author came to his school. And I want to hear what you all think. I love to hear from you by email. I love it, whether it's an e-day or not, what you think about it, or you can tell me what you're reading lately. I love to hear that too. So that's it for today. I hope you Love That Dog by Sharon Creech, and I will talk to you all later, and I hope to hear from you all really soon. Today, remember that email, it's on this slide. Bye, everyone.